Vanessa Bright. I am a spiritual teacher, a consciousness catalyst, a dream weaver, a all kinds of things shamanic. And one of the things that really gives me so much joy and passion is talking about dream work. And in this video, I want to share with you some things that when I learned them about dream interpretation, I found surprising. Now, I had been working with dreams for years and years. I'd worked with my own dreams in my own therapy since I was in my mid 20s and on. I'd just been kind of devouring all things dreams related for years and years and years. And over time, I've gathered lots of different threads, and I want to share with you 9 things that when I learned them about dream meanings, I was really surprised. Now, all of these things I have vetted through my own dreams and through the dreams of my clients. You will notice that when I give examples, 99.9% of the time, they're my dreams because dreams reveal so much. Even when I ask for permission, I just don't want to expose people's psyches in these ways where they may not even realize what they are exposing when they give permission for me to share their dreams. So I tend not to. I'm okay doing it with my own dreams because it's me. I'm the one making that choice. So I just wanted to kind of give you that disclaimer. Sometimes I'll share the dreams of my husband or close friends who do this kind of work and they understand what it means to share their dreams. But I just wanted you to know that that's why I'm not saying, oh, I had a client who had a dream with XYZ. Now you understand. So let's get into it. Number one, the number one thing that surprised me about dreams is that dreams show us our spiritual gifts and they'll give us insights into what we need to develop. All of us are born with at least one spiritual gift, and most of us are born with several. And we're not meant to develop them all at once. We're not meant to understand ourselves in all these different ways, spiritually speaking. And so your dreams are going to show you these gifts one at a time, or maybe more than one at a time, but they will be related in a way where you can actually use that information and start developing them. So I'll give you one example that's very, very common. Most of us, especially those people who are interested in dream work, interested in consciousness work, light workers, what have you, most of us are born with the gift of channeling. Channeling is not that big a deal. I'm not talking about necessarily trance channeling or those kinds where your entire ego steps aside and something else comes through. I'm talking about channeling in a bigger sense where you can tune in and you can connect to your higher self, or you can even connect to the angelic realms and things like that without the need for trance states, right? So a lot of us have the gift of channeling, and that will show up in dreams in a number of ways. One of those ways is the number two or two of something because it connotes two-way communication. But there are so many other things. So the number two by itself in a dream is not enough to show that you have the gift of channeling because two also relates to relationships, understandably, right? But you will see other symbols in dreams. So another one would be musical instruments, singing, dancing, any kind of expression, because that is always channeling. Even when it's in performance, it's still you are channeling frequencies through your body in some way. So, first example, I frequently dream of musical instruments. One of my most recent dreams, I opened a door to an entire room full of musical instruments, which told me it's time to really expand this channeling capacity to, in a bigger way. So spiritual gifts. And there we have lots and lots of different types of spiritual gifts. Channeling is just one of them. You may have the gift of prophecy. You may have the gift of, I'm not even going to list them. There are many, many. If you're interested, that's the kind of thing that I do with clients. Very often, those gifts will show up in trauma dreams and in birth dreams. And that's point number two. But that's because our traumas are very often designed for us to uncover our spiritual gifts. And we are born with the gifts. You don't have to go find them and claim them. They're already yours. And that is why they will show up in birth trauma dreams. So let me move on to point number two. Things that surprise me about dreams, which is that we all had some kind of landing here on Earth. When you are born, right? When you are conceived, we all had an entrance, right? I'm not talking about just the physical entrance, whether you were born naturally, whether you were born cesarean. I'm not talking about that, although that is part of our story. What I'm talking about is, were you wanted? Were you an accidental pregnancy? Were your parents upset that you were a girl instead of a boy? Were your parents overwhelmed and didn't know what to do with the baby and they were freaked out and whatever? All of that imprints and affects us as an infant, and you get messages from that, even if they're not intentional, but you get messages around what it was like for you to be welcomed or not welcomed on the planet. So, in birth trauma dreams, birth wounds, I don't know, different people call them different names, you will have symbols around um, hotels because it's a temporary place of, where you stay. It's kind of like the hospital is a kind of hotel. And there's so many different symbols that I can't even go through them all or list them because this video would be 3 hours long. That's where it takes some doing, some work, some working with a dream interpreter to understand. And here's why. Here's why it matters. Your birth trauma impacts how you see yourself in the world, how you feel yourself to be in the world, whether you feel welcome in the world at all, whether you feel like you deserve to exist, all that stuff. There are other factors that cause those pains and those traumas besides your birth trauma. But this is where it's so helpful when you have a dream and it shows you this is a birth trauma dream. Let's say airplane crash, right? You crash landed on this planet out of your mother. Oh, if you were adopted, if you were given up for adoption, right? And you may have had a much better life for being adopted, but there is still a trauma there. And your dream will show you, is it a trauma based because of your birth, or is it a trauma having to do with later stuff, right? So birth trauma dreams are so fascinating, so deep to work with, so challenging to receive sometimes. And you definitely want to be in a safe container so that you can really understand, like, wow, I didn't even know that I felt unwanted. There are people whose dreams will show that their parents attempted an abortion and it didn't take, and they were still meant to be born and they still had a life here, but that is something that can then be addressed energetically, can be addressed through soul retrievals, through shamanic journeying. There are things you can do, there are things that you can do to transmute that trauma. But first, you need to know that that is the trauma and not something else. I'm going to move on to point number three of things that surprised me about dream interpretation, which is that our guides show up in our dreams. And one telltale sign that a figure in a dream is one of your guides, it's not the only sign, but one of them is that this person is blonde. because we associate that with angels. And so that's how they will show up in our dreams. There are others. Sometimes it's a helpful figure. And this is something that you get over time as you work with dreams. Something challenging is happening, and then someone shows up to support you. And very often they don't look like someone that you know or have known. It'll just be like a random stranger in a dream, but they will show up. And here's an interesting thing I've noticed in my own dreams, and also in dreams of people that I work with, that sometimes people who in the past were really difficult in your life, people with whom you may have had a falling out. They may even be former friends that you've had to cut off. They may be grandparents who were really strict or stern or difficult or even abusive. As you do your inner work, as you transmute some of those traumas, these difficult people start to show up in your dreams as guides. And that is partly to do with the fact that you've done some work, some deep work to transmute their energies, and in part because you have had a soul contract with that person that they will enter your life, they will wreak havoc in some way. They will be difficult for you for the purpose of you learning something really, really crucial that you came here to learn. And then over time, as you did learn that lesson, then you're ready to see that that person was actually a guide, and they'll start showing up in your dreams. And you'll be able to recognize, like, wow, this person was really difficult. I had the worst time with them, and here they are in my dream as a guide. And it starts to actually transmute how you relate internally to that person, even if they're not in your life anymore. I've had that happen with at least two people in my life who were extremely difficult. And over time, they started showing up in my dreams as guides. And now I see them differently. I feel differently about them. I have no desire to reinstate the relationships because I know it's not about that. Let's move on to point number 4, which is that we do a lot of work in the dream realms. You don't think that that would be the case. We would think that dreams are showing us information, things that we need to know about ourselves, symbols that we need to work with, guides, what have you. And then we do all the work in the 3D, in the waking world, in the waking life. But actually, we do a lot of work in the dream realms that sometimes we have trouble with in our waking life. So, have you ever had a dream where you were sobbing, like sobbing, sobbing, sobbing? That was you doing work in that dream realm to release emotions that were potentially trapped in your body, trapped somewhere in your field that you couldn't release, you couldn't find a way to release in your waking life. So you did that work in the dream realm. I thought that was the coolest thing when I found out. I would have a lot of sobbing releases in my dreams, and I didn't understand until later that that was actually me doing that release in dream realms. And every time now that it happens, I'm like, oh, good. I didn't have to go have a 3-hour crying fit. I just did it while I slept. How amazing is that? That was really surprising to me. So emotional releases like sobbing, raging, all the things that you can't necessarily do, don't necessarily have an opportunity to do in your waking life, you have opportunities in your sleep. Other things that we can do in dream realms are the deeper initiations that need to happen that actually shift your energy field into the next phase of your evolution. Sometimes they literally just look like initiations. I just had a dream about this a couple of days ago. I'm still kind of pulsing with it, where it literally was an initiation dream. Sometimes they don't look like you're lying down in the grass or on the earth and are being chanted at or what have you. again, this is the kind of thing where we need to look at the actual dream. But once you acknowledge and recognize and just even understand that this was an initiation dream, something shifts inside you. When you realize you've been through an initiation of sorts, it's not like we only go through one, right? There are cycles and there are layers of them. But you start to relate to yourself differently when you understand, oh, that wasn't just me trying to process a bit of trauma or a lot of trauma, as the case may be, in an initiation dream. That was me actually being moved through energetically to another instance, another version of myself. So amazing that our dreams can do that, that we can do that in our dreams. I'm going to move on to point number 5 of things that surprise me, which is that animals in dreams and any creatures, spiders, mythical creatures, whatever they may be, come to our dreams to deliver medicine. And sometimes it looks like a nightmare. I had a dream where I was eaten alive by a bear. That was an initiation dream. That was a bear, that was bear energy coming to deliver medicine, coming to initiate me into the next version of myself, coming to take away. I literally died in the dream. If you thought you couldn't die in your dreams, you can. Your consciousness remains, but it is very possible to die in dreams. I died in this dream. It was not a fearless dream, I tell you. I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, this bear is literally eating me. I am dying right now. But that's just one of the more extreme ones you can have. Seeing a spider in a dream, seeing a bug in a dream, seeing birds, any kind of animal, deer, any butterflies, all kinds of creatures. What you do with that is you go look up the totem meanings, the shamanic meanings of that creature. There are going to be many because they all carry lots and lots. You don't need to understand or accept all of them, but see which ones you really relate to and really resonate with. That is the medicine that that creature, that animal or bird is bringing to you. So whether it's a nightmare, whether it's a positive kind of feeling dream, anytime there is an animal energy in your dream, and over time it starts to deepen. So there's no way I would have had a dream where I was eaten alive by a bear 5 years ago. It had to do with the fact that I started learning shamanic medicine and started internalizing bear energy and just the energies of the different creatures that I began to relate to in different ways than I had before. So this is also something that you develop over time. Moving on to point number 6 of very amazing things that dreams can do, which is that they respond to our intentions. So you can just hang out and wait and see if you have a dream and then write that down, work with it. Totally fine. Happens all the time. But you can also intend for a dream. You can have a question on your heart or in your mind where you are lost or confused, and you can ask your dreams for an answer. It's not going to be literal, or maybe it could be, but chances are it will be symbolic. But you can say, higher self, please send me a dream about whatever it is you're struggling with, your health, your relationship, your desire to have a child, or your struggle with conceiving, your desire to find a new path in life, your financial situation. You can ask for a dream. You may have to ask repeatedly, but eventually, if you fall asleep with an intention and you wake up with a dream, that dream is a response to that question. And then it takes some doing, it takes some sitting with a dream to understand how it might be, because sometimes they don't seem like they're related. But if you understand that your dream is coming to you as a response to your question, eventually you can make sense of it. I do this all the time. I've learned that I can consciously ask for dreams around specific issues. That way, if I'm really stuck on something and I really want to understand why am I stuck? Why do I keep learning this lesson over and over and over? I can ask for a dream and it gives you information in ways that your mind can't come up with, that you can't get in a book or in someone else's experience or in anyone's reflection on you based on what they know. It comes from a much deeper place within yourself than your mind. And so to me, it's one of the most amazing things that you can ask for a dream. You can literally just say, please send me a dream about this. Moving on to point number 7, amazing things that happen in dreams. Karmic issues are shown to us in dreams, as well as what our dharmic path is. One of the coolest things that indicates that you are having a dream about your karma is the number 5 in dreams. Fifth floor, age 5, 5 of something, 5 hours, any kind of 5. Fifth, yeah, did I say fifth floor? A lot of times we'll have elevator dreams too, and the floor, you'll notice you understand which floor you're going to. It's very specific. I'm going to the 5th floor, I'm going to the 10th floor. So the number 5 showing up in a dream in any form is telling you that the dream is about some karmic issue, not all of your karma. There's no way. We all have so much, right? But something about the dream, and then again, you sit with it and you try to understand, what is this really talking about? Is this about my relationships? Is this about my shame? Is this about my, whatever trauma, right? But you'll see if you're noticing a 5 or 5 of something in the dream, let's say highway number 5, or there's 5 buses or train number 5. That's your cue that this dream is telling you what your karma is to work on. And how amazing. You get pointers, you get shown what it is you need to work on. I just think that's the coolest thing ever. And equally so, the number 6. Oh, let me just say, why 5? Because we move through the world using our 5 senses. It's a 3D thing. So we land in this 3D realm and we're working through using our 5 senses. And that is so ingrained in us that that becomes a symbol that shows up in dreams to indicate this is about your 3D work. This is about your 3D reality. And then the dharmic path is shown through the number 6 because it's about you moving past the 5. You're moving through the 5 into your sixth sense, into your work that you are here to do, right? The karmic stuff we're here to rework and transmute and alchemize and change. And we're also here, once you've kind of done most of that, or as you're doing that, you're meant to be doing something that is your dharmic work, your dharmic path. And so the number 6 will show up in dreams, as well as other things. Your guides in your dreams will show up. Your spiritual gifts showing up in dreams doesn't mean you have to go become a spiritual healer or a guide or a coach or anything like that. You can very well be packing orders in a warehouse and be on your dharmic path because of the inner work that you're doing and the things that you're transmuting. And your dreams will be showing you, like, yes, you're working as a warehouse worker and you're on your dharmic path because of what you're doing. You're moving to the 6th floor or something like that in a dream. Very, very amazing. Point number 8. Out of 9, we're almost there. Numbers in dreams. I've been talking 5 and 6, and I think as I was making up this list, I was like, isn't this so cool? Every number in a dream has very clear things to communicate about our lives, about what we need to work on. I've already mentioned the number 2, representing spiritual gifts. The spiritual gift of channeling. I was just talking about the numbers 5 and 6, And all of the other numbers have very clear meanings. And I won't go through them all. I will just mention one number that is very rare in dreams, which is the number 9. The number 9 in dreams indicates that you have the opportunity to complete your karmic work in this lifetime. It's very rare. It's very beautiful, and you will see that in the rest of the dream, there will be things that point to how and why and in which direction to move in order for that work to be completed. Doesn't mean you're going to. It means because we have free will, but it means that you can. It means that you have the capacity and that you have created a lifetime in which you're going to give yourself the opportunity to finish all of your karmic work and transcend, right? Become a bodhisattva and then choose whether or not you want to return to Earth in your next incarnation or not, but it becomes a choice. And number 9, one of my favorite things that I have discovered about dreams is that they are showing us the progress that we're making on our healing journey. They're actually most dreams, if you're on any kind of healing journey, even if you've just started to think about your meaning in life and your purpose and maybe your traumas or things that you're struggling and why am I here anyway? Doesn't matter where you are. Your dreams are going to be showing you where you've shifted. And this is where it's helpful to keep a dream journal. And as you're working through your dreams, you'll start noticing themes and patterns. This is also where seeing numbers in dreams becomes really helpful because you've been dreaming about the number 5. There are, by the way, other symbols that show your karma, that it's a karmic dream, like let's say being on a Ferris wheel or being on an endless road, right? Cycles of things. So you are having dreams like that, right? You're on a Ferris wheel and you can't get off, or you get off the Ferris wheel and then you get right back on, right? And then you work on stuff, and then you have a dream with where you're taking an elevator up to the 6th floor. And so this dream is saying you're making progress. You have shifted out of only focusing on your karma, and now you're moving towards your dharma. And there are lots of other things that babies in dreams, children, you'll start to have very, very different dreams because anytime you see a baby, that's your inner child, right? And how you're relating to the baby in the dream is going to be showing you how you feel towards yourself, how you feel towards that inner child. And those dreams very often will show you your progress. I think that's so amazing and so heartening because if you're someone who works on yourself, and we all have so many different threads, right? And so many different areas of life that need our attention. It can be hard to tell sometimes whether you've made any progress, whether you've shifted in any way for real. One thing that's so amazing about dreams is that they never lie. You can't make this stuff up. Your ego is dormant, more dormant, I should say, while you're asleep. And when you're having a dream, you can't make up a dream about the number 6. It's either going to show up or it's not. And so, because dreams don't lie, you have so much more grounding when you understand what the dream is saying to you about where you're at than if you were to just read your journals or think about, like, well, I'm different in this, this, and this way. But the ego, we can weave any kind of story about anything about ourselves all day long for the rest of our lives. But dreams are going to be honest with you. I'm going to put that as number 10 because I think that's so amazing and so helpful. So I'm curious if anything I've shared here has jogged any thoughts or feelings for you. Let me know in the comments. If you are interested in doing this kind of deep dream work, I'm available. So privately, you will send me your dreams and I will send you my thoughts and my questions and my prompts for you, and we go back and forth until we unpack the meaning of the dream. And then very often the dream will tell you what to do or what would be helpful for you to do in order to heed the message. So if that's something that calls to you, I am here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.